You've seen them in every depiction of the Crusades, warriors of Christ, draped in flowing white cloaks, bearing the unmistakable red cross on their shields. They were soldiers of God, marching under the banner of salvation. But what if I told you that not all those symbols were Christian? What if beneath the Holy Cross there were markings far older, far darker, and not Christian at all? This is not a conspiracy theory. This is history, forgotten, ignored, or simply too uncomfortable to teach. Because when you dig beneath the righteous surface of the Crusades, what you uncover isn't purity. It's a tapestry of ancient beliefs, secret rites, and symbols that don't belong to the church, but to the pagan world the Crusaders were supposed to have left behind. And those symbols? They weren't just for decoration. They were shields in more ways than one. To understand how paganism crept into the very fabric of the Crusader identity, we must first look at the men themselves. Contrary to the myth, not every Crusader was a devout Christian warrior. Many were land-hungry nobles, criminals seeking redemption, or knights chasing fortune. Their faith, while real, was often mixed with superstition, folklore, and the remnants of pre-Christian beliefs, especially in the outer regions of Europe, the Germanic territories, Scandinavia, and the Celtic fringe. These were places where Christianity was still young, where the church had replaced the old gods, but not entirely erased them. And so, when these knights marched east, they brought more than just swords. They brought their fears, their customs, and their symbols. Many shields did bear the Red Cross, the Latin cross, blessed by the Pope himself. But alongside that, archaeologists and historians have found something unsettling. Carvings of the sun wheel, the triskelion, the black sun, even Ouroboros, the serpent devouring its own tail. Symbols that had no place in Christianity, but thrived in the mythologies of the Norse, the Celts, and the pre-Christian Saxons. At first, these symbols were dismissed as mere decoration. But the deeper scholars looked, the more they realized. These were deliberate. They had meaning. The sun wheel, for instance, was not just a pagan solar symbol. It represented the cycle of war, death, and rebirth. The triskelion stood for eternal motion and divine balance. And the black sun, well, that one is harder to explain. A powerful occult symbol, it represented inner strength, hidden knowledge, and protection from spiritual enemies. And Crusaders, marching into unfamiliar lands filled with unseen forces, might have felt they needed more than just the church to protect them. But how could the church allow this? Weren't such symbols considered heretical? Here's the twist. The church didn't always know. And when it did, it often looked the other way. You see, the Crusades were a delicate balancing act. The Pope needed manpower desperately. So long as a knight took the vow, paid the tax, and swore allegiance to Christendom, the church often turned a blind eye to his personal beliefs. After all, it was better to have a half-pagan warrior on your side than a full Christian sitting at home. There's even evidence, buried in letters and council records, that church officials debated how much folk tradition should be tolerated in the Crusader ranks. Some wanted total purity. Others argued it was a necessary compromise. And then, there were the orders. The military orders, the Templars, the Hospitallers, the Teutonic Knights, are often portrayed as paragons of Christian virtue. But they, too, had their secrets. The Templars, in particular, were accused, decades after their height, of worshipping strange idols, conducting bizarre rituals, and venerating symbols never recognized by the church. During the trials of the Templars in the early 1300s, testimony, often extracted under torture, spoke of a head that gave wisdom, of secret words, and of signs drawn in fire. Many historians dismiss these as politically motivated lies, and perhaps they were. But something doesn't add up. Why, then, do we find carved into Templar commanderies symbols that match no Christian doctrine? Why do the floor mosaics of some Crusader castles feature solar wheels and serpents? Why do certain knightly tombs bear geometric runes, eerily similar to those found in Norse burial sites? These aren't accidents. Let's return to the battlefield. Picture a knight, far from home, surrounded by foreign lands and enemies. He clutches his shield, not just for protection from arrows, but as a symbol of identity, of power, of meaning. His faith tells him God is on his side. But what if he also believes in older forces? Forces passed down from his grandfather, whispered in forest rituals, or scratched onto blades during winter nights. In that crucible of fear and blood, faith becomes layered, complex. He might pray to Christ, but carry the sun on his shield. One might wonder, did these symbols work? Did they bring power? Or were they simply psychological crutches in a brutal, unforgiving war? We'll never know for sure, but what we do know is this: the Crusades were not the monolithic, holy war we were taught in school. They were a swirling storm of politics, ambition, survival, and belief. Belief that didn't always align with Rome. And yet, this part of the Crusades has been whitewashed, forgotten. Why? Because it ruins the narrative. The idea of brave Christian knights fighting in the name of God becomes murky when those knights also invoked the gods of thunder, sun, and darkness. When they etched runes into their weapons and traced spirals into their shields. When they combined the sacred with the forbidden. History is often written by those who need clarity, simplicity, heroes and villains, light and dark, but real history lives in the gray. And when we stare into that gray, into the shadows cast by the gleaming red cross, we see things that don't quite fit. A spiral here, a hidden rune there, a symbol carved not for Christ, but for something older, something buried. Some say these symbols were just superstition. Others say they were heresy. But maybe, just maybe, they were something else entirely, echoes of a forgotten world, bleeding through the armor of the men who were supposed to have left it behind. So the next time you see a Crusader shield, look again. Look closer. You might not just see a cross. You might see the truth, hidden in plain sight,